The Furriest Movies of 2021. Good day, everyone. My name is Rod O'Reilly. I am Chief Editor of Information.com. I'm also a member of the ALAA, which every year helps furry fans from around the globe to celebrate their favorite anthropomorphic movies, TV series, books, comics, and so forth with the annual Ursa Major Awards. Basically furry fandom's answer to the Hugo Awards from the World Science Fiction Society. Normally this is a presentation I give at the annual Further Confusion Convention in San Jose, California. But COVID being COVID, FC didn't happen this year, and so my presentation is going online. Here's a look back at some of the amazing feature films of 2021 that showcased anthropomorphic characters in prominent roles, as well as a look ahead at some of what 2022 has to offer us in the coming months. Oh, and a special shout out to Dronen at flera.com for helping me to complete this list. Okay, so let's get started. Right out of the gate, last March Disney brought us Raya and the Last Dragon, their first film to feature a South Asian princess, and a film to feature one of the coolest dragons that we have seen in animated films in a long time. I like her a lot. This was one of my favorite films right from the get-go. Willy's Wonderland. Once again, Hollywood is trying to catch up, and everybody is trying to do a Five Nights at Freddy's movie. Of course, it's going to be a horror, and of course this was. In this case, starring Nicolas Cage as a janitor who winds up going against killer robots at a restaurant. Of course. Flora and Ulysses was on the Disney Channel, and it's basically a young girl discovers that a squirrel that she has adopted has superpowers. Simple as that. Tom and Jerry has been in the works for a while, and of course there have been several Tom and Jerry movies that have flown under the radar. This one received much more of a push. It was a live-action animation crossover, which people have mixed feelings about. The interesting thing in it is that the world they showed, every single animal of any sort was animated, but all of the humans were live action. Make of that what you will. Godzilla vs. Kong. Once again, the new age of kaiju is upon us, and they are continuing this series with new looks at some of our favorite monsters from the past. Some of them remade, and some of them like they've never been before. Nezha Reborn is a Chinese animated film. It's an old legend that's been animated previously, but this is one of the first ones to receive distribution in the West. It's the story of a demon who is reincarnated in human form, and of course the human doesn't know that they are in fact a demon until someone pushes them too far. There's a lot of dragons in this one too, and various other demonoid characters who show up. Arlo the Alligator Boy has been in development for a long time also, and a lot of people were really looking forward to this when it showed up on Netflix. It's the introduction to new characters and the introduction to a TV series they have running now called I Heart Arlo. Basic story, a young half-alligator, half-human boy travels to New York to find his dad. Make of that what you will. The Legend of Hay is another Chinese animated film. Basically, it's a cat demon who was pushed out of his forest home by forces of development and has to move into human society. Part of him really dislikes doing this, and part of him really likes doing this. And so there's a bit of a push-pull between his magical realm and his life as a cat. Spirit Untamed is based, of course, on Spirit Stallion of the Cimarron from DreamWorks Animation. This is one of DreamWorks' new TV series, which in this case has been made into a feature film that was available online. It's Spirit in a more modern setting, and he hooks up with a young girl at a ranch. You'll find an awful lot of the movies that's been coming around lately feature young girl protagonists. It seems to be a thing. Peter Rabbit 2, The Runaway. Oh my goodness, this has been bouncing around the schedule for a long time. It, of course, was supposed to come out all the way back in 2020, I believe, and COVID saw to it that didn't happen. Eventually, it finally managed to make it out in early June of 2021. Largely the same cast, largely the same characters, some new characters added, and this time around we did not have a Star Wars person voicing Cottontail. I don't know why. This was interesting because it was one of the first films to actually make its way back into theaters when things started to open up a little bit in the spring and summer. Rock Dog 2, Rock Around the Park. Of course, Rock Dog was a surprise for a lot of furry fans. It didn't make a big splash in the animation or film worlds, but oh my goodness, didn't furry fans fall in love with it. And we've been waiting to hear if we wouldn't get a second. We did, featuring an entirely new production crew, an entirely new director, and entirely new voice actors. So take a look at it. It's streaming, and see what you think, how they did this time around. Wish Dragon, again, has been talked about for a long time. Finally came around on Netflix. And a lot of people really kind of wish that, they wish that Netflix had pushed it a little harder, because this basic Chinese Aladdin tale turned out to be extremely cool to a lot of people. And oh my gosh, what a cool dragon once again. 2 cool dragons in a year. Who knew? Luca was 2021's Pixar film, and it's a love letter to Italy. It's a love letter to young boyhood. And strangely enough, it's a love letter to a lot of Studio Ghibli animated films. There were an awful lot of little bits they were throwing at you, like, did you catch this Easter egg? Basically, in this story of 2 young boys who are in fact sea monsters in disguise, trying to sneak their way into a human village, and what happens. Space Jam, A New Legacy. This time around starring LeBron James as the basketball star who must go up against a team of animated evil guys playing basketball with the help of the Warner Brothers cartoon characters on his side as the Toon Squad. Boy, they did everything in this to pull out every single Warner Brothers character, and I don't mean just Warner Brothers Animation. I mean Warner Brothers, the movie studio characters came out in this. It was basically their salute to themselves. Troll Hunters, Rise of the Titans. Of course, Guillermo del Toro has given us the Troll Hunters series for a while, and this was the latest of his feature films from the series. Basically, our heroes and their friends, the trolls, go up against a very powerful pair of magicians who are, of course, trying to take over everything. The Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn. My goodness, everybody had been talking about this all the way up. And of course, what furry fans were immediately going to notice was the existence of King Shark, voiced by Sylvester Stallone. And in general, he wound up being one of the coolest characters in the film. But of course, furry fans were also going to notice the Weasel, who, spoiler alert, managed to walk away at the end. Vivo, another film that kind of flew under the radar, didn't get pushed as much by Netflix as a lot of people hoped that it would. It's a film largely created by Lin-Manuel Miranda before he became a superstar through another superstar again through Encanto later on. But he started off with Vivo this year, or last year, and it's basically the story of a kinkajou who is looking to fulfill his passed away master's last request. And that hardly covers it. There's a lot of great music, a lot of interesting animation, and Vivo himself is just really cool. Paw Patrol the movie. Oh my goodness, where has this been? Paw Patrol is like a cultural institution in Western civilization. It is everywhere. Why did it take them so long to make a movie? But eventually they did, and got it out in theaters in the middle of August. from everywhere to hardly anywhere, but Ape Star is a Scandinavian film. Very simple story. A young girl living in an orphanage gets adopted by a female gorilla. They then discover that they like each other very much, although a lot of humans around them don't. Sounds very strange, but I've seen parts of it. It's very interesting, and I believe it's out there on streaming services, so look for it. My Little Pony, A New Generation. I am selling it short if I say that people have been waiting for this one, okay? People have been on the edges of their seats about this for quite some time, since the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic series ended. We had heard there was going to be a new series. Then we heard it was going to be CGI, which had a lot of people worried. And wow, what they wound up with is, from what I've heard and what I've seen, very satisfactory to a lot of the bronies out there. And now next year, or later this year, we have a new TV series that's going to be coming along. So definitely, if you have availability of Netflix, check out the feature film. It is worth your time. Another obscure one I stumbled across, it's called Even Mice Belong in Heaven. It's a Czech and French co-production that was mostly available in Europe but eventually made its way into streaming services. It's very interesting because it's actually a stop-motion animation film, which is very rare these days. Not a lot of people besides Aardman are doing that. And it's a very well-done film for that. It's the story of a fox and a mouse who, while one is chasing the other, they both get run over by a car. And then in heaven, they need to figure out what they're going to do with each other. Again, that's a very simple explanation, but it gets very complex, and it's a very interesting film. Track it down if you can. Coati is another obscure film that we'd heard about for a while that eventually made its way out right around Halloween. It's the first feature film created solely by Toon City Animation, which has collaborated with Disney. They've been a farm-out location for a lot of projects over the years, but this is one they made themselves. It's the story of a coati who is trying to protect his jungle home from a large viper snake who is attempting to take over. Clifford the Big Red Dog. Oh my, perhaps this year's Sonic the Hedgehog, I might say, because my goodness, when people saw the initial trailers, the reactions were not the greatest to the CGI Clifford. For such a famous, well-known children's book, I think people were expecting things a little different when they got a movie adaptation. But eventually they rejiggered things and things got out. This is one of those ones that got bounced around. Unfortunately, COVID started rising again right as it was heading to theaters, so it wound up being mostly streaming. But it did seem to go pretty far when it was there. An Egg Rescue. Another obscure one to a lot of people, but not to other people. This is part of the Huevos series, which, as far as I know, has never... None of the films in this series have ever been translated or put out in English. But, oh my goodness gracious, are they ever popular in Spanish-speaking theaters all over. They do a lot of business there. It's the story of chickens and their anthropomorphic eggs. In this case, their eggs get kidnapped to Africa, and the chickens must go and rescue them. You heard me right. Extinct, another one we'd heard about for a long time that eventually made its way out. Got a couple of donut-shaped creatures called flummels who somehow get tossed forward in time and discover that they are now an extinct species. So they manage to get themselves tossed back in time, and they try to figure out how they went extinct and how they can stop it, which sounds awfully serious for what is probably a rather silly film, but that's what it says. Back to the Outback. Came to us from Real FX, who, of course, in the past brought us The Book of Life and other films. Freebirds was also Real FX, but this is their latest. It's called Back to the Outback. Group of Australian animals who dislike being thought of as ugly and dangerous and so forth decide to escape from the zoo where they are put on display and try to head back to the outback where they feel they will be more accepted. Unfortunately, coming along with them is Pretty Boy, who is the world's cutest koala, who does not want to be there, and they don't want him there either, but hijinks ensue, so they wind up together. Interestingly, Pretty Boy is voiced by Tim Minchin. I can't help wondering if this is what he wound up doing instead of Larrykins, which was the animated project he was going to do, but he wound up in this instead. And they all did a fairly good job of it. Rumble. Oh my goodness, we've been waiting for this one forever, and eventually it made its way out on Paramount streaming service. This was based on a graphic novel called The Monster on the Hill. And boy, did it get changed on its way to adaptation for the screen. Now it's a wrestling film about kaiju who wrestle, and young lady, there we go, who is helping a less than stellar monster to become a better fighter. Sing 2, sequel to Sing. The latest from Illumination. Oh my goodness, what's to say? The Sing film was one of the ones that a lot of people may have missed, but everyone who's seen it went, oh my goodness, this is a fantastic anthropomorphic film, and Sing 2 jumps everything up a level even above that. The singing, the animation, the production design. It's hard to throw enough goodness at this. Buster Moon and his friends go to basically their equivalent of Las Vegas and try to put on a giant show, which gets them into great deals of trouble with, shall we say, the local mob. This is Vegas we're talking about. Again, way oversimplification, but oh my goodness, it's a film worth seeing. It, and please, if you at all can do so safely, see this one on a big screen. Trust me. In a very different vein, The Ghouls. Don't know a lot about this one. It kind of came out of nowhere. It was produced in the USA, Germany, and China. Basic story is there's a truce between predators and prey, but there's a big bad wolf who doesn't like the truce and thinks he can find a way to sneak in eating some young animals, in this case little goats, but it turns out the little goats have been studying martial arts. And finally, for 2021, sneaking in just under the watch, oh my goodness, he came out on December 31st, was SEAL Team from Triggerfish. Triggerfish, of course, has brought us several interesting anthropomorphic films over the years, like Kumba and Adventures in Zambezia. In this case, we have a set of seals who decided they're tired of being eaten by the local sharks, so they decide to arm themselves and form a squad to take the sharks out. Interestingly, if you watch it, this film is done kind of in the animation style that was made popular by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That's different sort of animation timing. So it looks really different from stuff you've seen before. But it's available on Netflix, so definitely check it out if you can. So there it is. 30 movies with great furry content that all came out to us last year. What were your favorites? Have you thought about nominating them for an Ursa Major Award? You can, you know. But wait, let's take a look at what's coming up next in this year of 2022. Belle is the latest film from Mamoru Hosoda, who of course in the past has brought us furry films like Wolf Children, Boy and the Beast, and he always seems to have some kind of an anthropomorphic aspect in everything that he does. Belle is, again, going back sort of to his film Summer Wars. It's the story about a young girl, there it is, on a VR an online service, and in that virtual reality, she has reimagined herself as a singing superstar known as Belle. In her guise as that, she comes across a strange creature known as the Dragon, and learns that he has a rather tragic backstory out in his real world, and so does she, so she attempts to make connection with him. Hotel Transylvania 4, Transformania. Carrying on with the series, taking a whole new thing. Some of the humans turn into monsters, and most of the monsters turn into humans. That's as simple as that, and it goes from there. Interestingly, this one has a new voice for Dracula. Adam Sandler was not involved with this, and popular online voice actor Brian Hull has taken over as the voice for Dracula. Most of the rest are people that you've heard of before, and hey, it's the same characters carrying on with the same antics. And lots and lots and lots of young werewolves. Riverdance, the animated adventure. This is one that I've been looking for a while, and it's actually came out in 2021, but now it's available more globally. It was originally only out in Ireland and a couple of other countries, but now it's made its way to Netflix. If you are into dance at all, it is a beautiful film. It is very well animated. The cinematography is amazing. The comic relief characters are a bit annoying and unnecessary, but in general, this is pretty amazing to look at, and I highly recommend it. Ice Age, Adventures of Buck Wild. This is Disney's first Ice Age film since they took over and then, let's face it, got rid of Blue Sky Studios. So they've taken over Ice Age for themselves. The animation looks a lot different. I'll kind of leave it at that, but it is Buck Wild, and he is a very popular character. So see what you think when it comes out. Chicken Hair and the Hamster of Darkness. My goodness, isn't that a title you're going to remember? Chicken Hair is actually based on a comic graphic novel series created by Chris Grine. He is a character who is half chicken and half rabbit, and he is going on an adventure to find the Hamster of Darkness, which is something his adventurer adoptive dad was looking for and was unable to find. Check out the trailers on this one, I gotta say that, because it really does look interesting, and we're hoping it comes out. It's out now in Europe, actually, but we're hoping that it comes out to more wide streaming services as soon as possible. Speaking of which, Ainbo, Spirit of the Amazon. A young girl there to save her Amazon home from development, discovers A, she is the hero who is destined to do so, and B, she has some animal spirit guides to help her along, a tapir and an armadillo. The Amazing Maurice, based on The Amazing Maurice and His Talented Rats, which is a Discworld novel created, of course, by Sir Terry Pratchett. This one is supposedly coming soon, but we haven't heard much about it yet. So it may be delayed, but it is supposed to be coming out soon. Basically, the story is Maurice discovers that he can hook up with a set of local rats. They create havoc. He comes along and chases them away. Of course, everyone pays him, and then everyone profits. That's the simple version of it, of course. But being a Discworld novel, things get much more complicated than that. Turning Red, the latest from Pixar. One of the first Pixar films directed by a woman. One of the first Pixar films directed by an Asian American woman. The story is a young girl who discovers that based on her family history with magic, which she didn't know about, when she gets upset or gets highly emotional, she turns into a giant red panda until she calms down. Simple as that. Things get complicated from there. This one got a lot of press over the fact that it was originally going to be released to theaters, and then Disney decided close to the last minute that no, they're only going to stream it on their Disney Plus service. That's got a lot of people talking, so we'll see what happens. Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, the movie. We've been hearing about this one for a while. It's supposed to be a Chip 'n Dale origin movie, which is a combination of live action and animation. We say supposed to be because pretty much that's all we've gotten. It's supposed to be coming out soon, according to reports and according to imdb.com. But we haven't seen any trailers. We haven't heard much about it. There's not an awful lot of information about it online. So it's a big question mark. We'll see what happens with this one. Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Of course, after all of the controversy from the original Sonic trailer, they managed to back things up and change things on Sonic's design to something that people liked much more. Good on them. My gosh, that's a lot of work. But guess what? The film came out and it did very well right before COVID shut everything down. So it managed to do well in theaters. It was one of the last films to do well in theaters. And now we get the second one. And we get Idris Elba, Chief Bogo himself, as Knuckles. Yes. You've heard about this one, The Bad Guys. Oh my goodness. People were going bananas about this within hours of the trailer hitting. Based on a novel and graphic novel series, basically you have a set of animals who are known as bad guys who, through a series of shenanigans, decide they might actually like to try being heroes for once. A lot of well-known voices in this, including Awkwafina as Ms. Spider. Awkwafina, of course, was the voice of Sisu, the dragon from Raya and the Last Dragon. The DC League of Super Pets, starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as Crypto the Superdog. You've probably seen the trailers for this. It looks to be tons of fun, especially if you're into superhero movies and spoofs of superhero movies. It's interesting that almost none of the animals presented in the film, according to the trailer, are actually characters that we've seen in DC Comics in the past. Don't know why. They've got a bunch of them, although Kevin Hart's Dark Dog does have the same name as who eventually winds up being Batman's dog. Minions, The Rise of Gru. There you are. What can you say? They're endlessly popular. They rule the world on their own part, and so, there's always going to be more minions. Blazing Samurai, which we have been hearing about for years and years and years. Supposedly, they actually have a release date in July this time from Paramount. The new film is directed by Rob Minkoff, who, of course, was one of the directors of The Lion King. It's created by Aniventure, which was the same studio that animated Riverdance, the animated film, which I talked about earlier. So here's hoping. It's basically Blazing Saddles, this time done with anthropomorphic animals and set in ancient Japan. As I said, we've been hearing about it for a while. Fingers crossed. Under the Boardwalk. I had not heard about this one. Others pointed it out to me, and okay. This one is about anthropomorphic crabs. You have a set of crabs who are living under the boardwalk on the beach, and then you have a set of crabs who wash in off the ocean, and tensions arise between the tribes. Okay, don't know much about it, but it's coming out this summer, they say. Also coming out this summer, we have Luck, the first animated feature from the new Skydance animation. A young woman falls into a magic portal and discovers that she's now in the land where all of the aspects of good luck and all of the aspects of bad luck are at war with each other over who is controlling the world. Lots and lots and lots of anthropomorphic animals of various sorts, if you happen to know your superstitions. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Once again from DreamWorks Animation, welcoming back everyone's favorite feline from the Shrek universe, this time discovering that he's on his 9th life. So he needs to figure out a way to rejigger his original 8. That's the basic story, but we'll see where it goes from there. And I assume Antonio Banderas is going to be bringing us this voice once again. Spellbound is another one from Skydance Animation, coming next fall. Young female wizard in training. That's what we know about it for the plot, other than the fact that, as you can see from the art, there's lots of interesting creatures that she deals with in this situation. And finally, just before Thanksgiving, we're supposed to get Lyle Lyle Crocodile, which is based on a very famous children's book about a crocodile living in New York and just trying to get along with people and actually doing fairly well of it until, of course, people from City Hall find out. Stars Javier Bardem as, I believe he's playing Lyle, but he's one of the voice actors. And that is supposed to come out, again, in late November. Now, there's more films coming out next year, but these are some ones that we do not yet have a release date on, but they are supposedly in the production pipeline. Such films as Escape from the Hat, which is supposed to be coming to Netflix. Story of a bunch of magicians' rabbits who discover that there is a world inside the hat that they fall into, and they need to find a way to get out. This one is directed by Mark Osborne, who was one of the directors on the original Kung Fu Panda. High in the Clouds is the story of a squirrel who is looking for an animal sanctuary. This one was produced by Sir Paul McCartney, and it is coming to Netflix again sometime later in the year. Hit Pig, another title you're going to notice, I'm sure. This is brought to us by none other than Bloom County creator Burke Breathed. It's the story of a hit pig who is given a contract to take out a famous elephant, and then they discover they like each other, basically. By the way, Hit Pig is voiced by none other than Peter Dinklage. My Father's Dragon, that's one we've been hearing about for a while. It's a remake of a 1990s film. It's coming to Netflix again later this year. Basically, it's a young boy discovers that his father had a dragon for a pet at some point, and he needs to go track it down now that his father has passed away. This one is being created by Cartoon Saloon, which of course created the Ursa Major winning film Wolfwalkers, and many other interesting films. Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the movie. Of course, there's always turtles to be found, and this latest TV series now has its own feature film. And finally, The Sea Beast, again coming to Netflix sometime later this year, we're told. Haven't heard of the story before, but basically a famous hunter out on the sea looking for a sea monster finds his life complicated when it turns out that the sea monster in question is friends with a young girl. Can't get away from him. And there you have it. 25 furry films for 2022 and more in development we hope to find out about later. Now it's your turn. Take a look back at 2021 and think about your favorite anthropomorphic media. Then make sure to visit www-dot-ursamajorawards.com and nominate them. Pick your favorites in any category or all categories. Your choice. But hurry up. Nominations end soon, and then it's going to be time to vote for the best. Who will it be?